Hi, I want to talk to you today about three skills to learn if you're recovering from complex PTSD. These skills are super important and they really open the door to tons and tons of healing, mind-blowing healing. And it's a huge difference between being in post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth. And these three skills really get you there. And so these are ones you can master for yourself. You can learn them. You can grow and grow and grow in these abilities. And then you can just provide your brain with more and more support to do the processing and healing work that it needs to be able to do to create your health and wellness. And so that's what we're talking about today in this. I'm Rachel McLeod. I am a mental health therapist and emotional wellness coach, and I specialize in complex PTSD. I also help people resolve their anxiety and depression disorders, move them into remission, and keep them there, and so that they are free to thrive and grow. And so, the brain has a really beautiful process for this. That's my entire specialty, is getting that brain process unblocked and moving, so that the brain is able to complete the work it needs to do to resolve symptoms and to grow. And especially with complex PTSD, there's a ton of things that need to start growing and developing and wiring in. And that's because when we've spent a ton of time in survival mode, our brain has been building survival strategies, and it hasn't spent enough time in thriving mode and rest, digest, to build the healthy stuff. That's where it will build the healthy stuff. And so we want to pull it over here and help it to build the things you need, the ability to receive intimacy, connection, security, and to feel that internal sense of safety and security and confidence. That's a brain wiring thing. Your brain builds that for you, and it has everything it needs. It just needs to be assembled. And so that stuff should have been assembled in childhood, but because of circumstances outside of children's control, their parents are not always available. Our parents and we as parents aren't always available to help our children build this. So we want to build it for ourselves. That's how we pass it to our children. And we can do it for ourselves even if we miss that time of development and our parents were never going to do that or didn't know how. So that's that brain work, that brain process is really what unlocks all of this. And so that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about this from your brain's perspective, and the three skills that I want to encourage you to build so that you can help your brain complete the work that it needs to do for building. Okay. And the very first skill is one I talk about all the time. It's in every single video. So I'm going to keep it briefer here, but I am going to say a couple of things that I don't think I've said before about this first skill. And this first skill, that if you are wanting to recover from complex PTSD and live a life of growth and wellness and thriving, which you absolutely can, our systems are designed for this. The top skill, the very most important skill, is nervous system regulation. For you to be able to regulate your nervous system. And by this, we mean the physiological shift, the body shift. This is not an idea. This is not a concept. This is not something you say to yourself. This is actually a shift in how your body's functioning. And this is also the shift from survival mode over into rest and digest. We go from the limbic system mode to vagus nerve stuff. Okay, we're getting a little bit more sciencey, and I have all the names and stuff. I'm failing anatomy and physiology at all times. So, but it's a shift from stressed to stress processing, right? It's a shift from worry to processing and figure out and sorting the worries. It's a shift from survival state into rest, digest, and executive functioning. Turn on and sort this stuff out, logic and reasoning. It's also a shift. I'm going off here. I'm having a good time. Stay with me. I'm almost done. But it's also the shift from emotion to logic and reasoning. And that is not at all saying emotion is bad. Emotion is our power. We have been disconnected from that in our family of origins because we weren't allowed to have power. It was seen as threatening for us to have emotions. Nobody knew what to do with it. There was no space for it. There was not enough love and support for it. So we had to learn how to disconnect. And but what we were disconnecting from is our power. But also emotions are full of data about who we are, and it's how our brain is learning about us. And so if we've blocked our emotions, we've also blocked our brain's process from learning about us. That's why you get to be in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s and your 60s and you're like, I don't know what I need, I don't know what I want, I don't know what makes me light up, I don't know. Right? Because you don't. That information is stuck in the unresolved emotions pile in your brain. And that's why to come into this development, we need to give your brain access to that stuff and get that stuff processing, not just feeling it. I'm not talking about getting that stuff up so you can feel it. I don't believe in that. I think if you're feeling it, fine. If you can't feel it, then you don't need to feel it. You need to process the emotions. Okay, and sometimes that means feelings, and the better you get at processing, the safer it is to feel the feelings, and that is fabulous. But especially when you have complex PTSD, some of these things are not safe to feel again, and so we're not gonna be blocked by all the ideas that we need to feel these emotions. No, we need to process these emotions, and there's so many ways of doing that. Okay, so but the key here, to process any emotion, you have to regulate your nervous system. You have to get that nervous system, that physiological shift from fight or flight to rest and digest. That has to occur. If that does not occur, your brain cannot process anything. You can see things, you can record things, you can know things, you can analyze things to some level, but it will never get processed, and your mind body system is not going through its process for resolving those symptoms for you. Okay, and that your body has to process the emotions. It has to digest the emotions the same way it has to digest food. And we want that process on. And the skill that we get to do to influence that whole process is regulating our nervous system. Okay, and this does not take long. Basically, what we need is to start sending safety signals through the body that are going to go and reach your survival system, and that survival system is going to say, "Oh, we're safe. Let's go ahead and let the whole brain process this stuff." Okay. Um, that's how it works. They don't tell you this when they're showing you the fMRIs and all the nerd language, but that's it. And so we want to find something we want to find exercises from the body, movements using the body that signal safety to your survival system. Some things that will signal safety for me may terrify somebody else's nervous system, right? And something that somebody else loves, that SMR music, that sounds, oh my gosh, I can't with that. Okay. But people are like, oh my gosh, it's so soothing. Okay. No, not for me. Okay. I'm not even saying it right because I don't want anything to do with that stuff. Okay. Except for the little cutting the soap bars. I like that. Okay. But those, and I want to tell you, there are thousands and thousands of ways to regulate your nervous system. And you need some that you can rely on all the time, because we have a lot of work to do when we've got complex PTSD. We have to help your brain process and resolve and build and wire and rewire so many things. We've got to get to work. So we need a strategy you can use over and over again. I was playing on YouTube. I was like, I went through an era where I was really about, I need all the interventions. And so I did as many as I could find. And it didn't change the fact that, one, I need to regulate my nervous system. I wanted to find a magical one that you just do it one time and we're good. Nervous system, be regulated. No, the nervous system is responding constantly to life. Constantly. There's so much data moving through our system. Anything can be flagging it as not safe. And if you've got complex PTSD, a lot of things are moving through your system every day, all day, that flag it's not safe. So we want to start processing some of that. We don't have to do it all. But we need to help take a big chunk. Okay. So you need an intervention that you're going to use, regularly. I tried one where you lay down and you move your head to the side. I don't even know if I'm doing it right. It might have been just my eyes to the side. Anyway, I could tell my nervous system loved it. Once you know how to do this shift, you can see the patterns, what your body does when it's being regulated. And so you have some ideas of what your nervous system responds to. And so great, but if I have something come up for me, I'm not laying down on the floor and gonna roll my eyes. I'm not. Okay, if you are, great, that's a great intervention for you, right? But I specialize in this and I can tell you there's a ton of work and I don't think you want to get on the floor this much. Okay, so so I have three of my favorite interventions. The first two that I teach usually work for everybody. I've only had one client in my whole time who could not start with those two interventions. So I pulled out a different one for her. Um, and we kept working till we found the right one. And then once we could regulate her nervous system, and it was one she was willing to do regularly to provide her brain with up to 2 hours of support a day, right? Once we found that intervention, then that was the one she did, and now she does all of them, but all the ones she wants. Yeah, actually, she does all of them. She was really phobic of a couple of them, and her nervous system worked that out. So you want to grab a couple of them that are going to give you what you need, what your survival system needs when it thinks you're in danger and you know you're not, right? And even if you are in danger, it's still great to process all this stuff because you're going to get smarter and wiser about how you respond. Okay, so and that's not really my specialty, so I'm not gonna talk about that. But that's the most important skill. If people don't have this skill, I'm not going any further. I'm not. You can't work with me. I'm not working with you. I appreciate you. I think you're fabulous. What we are going to do, if we do not get your survival system support, will re-traumatize you, will make you miserable, and will make your life worse. I'm not doing it. However, if we have the right intervention on for your nervous system, this stuff feels good. It feels fun. It's exciting. It's gratifying. It's satisfying. It's a little bit addictive for a little bit because you're like, oh, I'm healing. And this is fun, right? I mean, it's like playing the lottery. What else can I do? What other numbers can I punch here? I mean, the dopamine is dopamining. Okay. So, but you got to have this thing. That's why I'm always like, try these interventions, watch what they do. And even with no skill, you use these interventions and your brain starts working better and better and better and starts processing these things. And usually it's very, very safe and fun. And it gets kind of frustrating because you're like, I know I can do more. I can do this and that, but you don't have the skills to. And so then there's more skills to learn. Okay. But once you can work that nervous system and switch from survival mode to thriving, now you can build the next skill. Okay. And the next skill that is I've come to see is just the biggest need for people with complex PTSD. And this skill is called resourcing. If you're a therapist, hopefully you know exactly what I'm talking about. I took a training on resourcing. And I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. And it took me years to figure it out, maybe a year. But I finally started to get it. But I didn't get how important it was. And if I could go back in time, I would do this with my clients over and over and over and over again, as early as I could get them in position to do it. As soon as they had enough inner world mastery to do this, I would do this. And I would lead it, and I would help them build this as soon as I could. Now this is something I teach in my program. It's in the third part of my program, so I'm teaching people how to do this resourcing thing. You do need a little bit of skill building up to it, but you, as somebody with complex PTSD, you need this a lot. This is where you bring the brain to look at itself. You bring you to look at you. This might be, this is something people call like reparenting your inner child. People will say that. But I want to expand this resourcing bigger than that, because this is not just used in the past. This can be used in the present. This can be used in the future. But it's when you say to yourself, I can see that observation. It's a very non-judgmental statement. It's very simple. It's even something as small as, I can see that you're sad. And you say this to yourself. You say this to your younger child, if that's what they're exactly in right then. Or I can see that you're curled up, you know, a tiny observation. And what's so powerful about this is that, unfortunately, this will usually be some of the first times that part of you has ever been seen. And what happens in the brain in that moment is phenomenal. So much wiring and healing, so much body movement, so much releasing, so much healing. People often cry through this. There's so much releasing and processing going on, and there's so much wiring and hooking up. It's like, and this is like where one of some of the first times the brain is learning to find the self more intimately. Okay. This skill is needed over and over again. We need to wrap our inner, our self, our who we are in all these moments. All these moments are opportunities to do that wrapping, that resourcing. And we're resourcing them because they're alone, right? And all of a sudden they have this new support system, us, and we're having an interaction, a dialogue. These are just little brain games that we're playing. But for wiring and rewiring, it is huge. This is an important skill. I cannot say it enough. It's shocking. You got to try this. If you have a therapist who knows how to do resourcing, have her walk you through a resourcing exercise. If this is something you want to learn from me, this is something I'm teaching in the third week of my program, Inner World Transformation. This is a skill to grab up, put in your pocket, and use a lot. And I'm a little bit of a drill sergeant here, so you can borrow me. Do it. Okay, let's do it again. Okay, let's do it again. We're doing push-ups over here. We want your brain, because brains only build because of the experience, because it needs to build it. It doesn't build because it's a good idea. You can good idea your brain. We could sit and chat and kick it around in the office. Oh, I had a client tell me that her therapist said, oh, just go within yourself. You need to go within yourself. And I was like, okay, that's a good idea. Did she show you how? Did she guide you to do it? And then she was like, no, I don't know how to do that. And it's like, nobody knows how to do that. We have to actually do it to learn how to do it. So it's like, come on, let's go. Let me show you how to go inside and find some of these things. That's what we're doing. And it's not just about knowledge. It's about get in there, find that younger self in whatever way you can with your senses, right? Some people can see vivid imagery. Some people can hear. Some people have a knowing. Some people can feel it in their body. They can feel that they're communicating with themselves. Your sensory style is yours, and it matters, and it's good enough. You don't have to have, let me borrow somebody's visualization. I'm not a visualizer. I don't have great visualization in there. But I'll tell you what, I practiced this resourcing myself, and myself was like, I can, one of the things you can do is you can imagine yourself here going through something, and you kind of split yourself off. I know it sounds not good, but it's fabulous. And you kind of come behind yourself and you say, this is really hard. And myself just is like, it is so hard. And then we're done. It's over. And it's like, feels so good. And I'm just like, seriously? And right, the shock of how powerful comfort is to somebody with complex PTSD. Oh, that's the solution? Yeah, it's been the solution. And so when we learn to do this ourselves, we're actually wiring for it. And then what happens is, it's the strangest thing, but all of a sudden you start receiving these same things for other people, from others, from outside of you. And you start attracting more and more people who can see you because you can see you. And before you couldn't see you, so you're attracting all these people to you who couldn't see you. I could go off on resourcing. I need to make a whole video about this. But there's so many ways to practice it. I teach this in that program. I'm actually going to be doing an upgrade to that program because I want to go off and say more and teach more strategies in there. And I don't overload you with strategies in there because it doesn't matter how many we have. That's part of the interventions. You can go, it doesn't matter how many interventions you have, you need to get to work. And so we don't want to be fooled by geeking out about all these things. We actually want to get to it, do it. And so we can do it in little micro ways until we can do it in bigger ways. And then our brain's like, ooh, I bet we could do this and this together. And yes, now we're off and running. Okay. Okay. The third skill is flood management, to learn how to ride the waves of flooding. Now, as a therapist, I was trained never let a client flood. Like, do everything and anything you can do to not let a client flood. And this means that what is happening is the client gets triggered and the brain starts to pull all the emotions forward, and they just basically are under the water of the emotion. And a lot of their prefrontal cortex is shutting down. It's a strong survival state, and it's re-traumatizing. And this people get traumatized in therapy because of flooding. And so we really work hard to keep people safe, not open too many things, don't go to the wrong place, and don't open things you're not ready for, because it's a jungle in our brains. It got there because of pain, and we cannot process all the pain at one time. If we could, this would be a much more simple process, but we cannot. And so in the beginning, when somebody begins doing this work and their brain's beginning to process, they probably can only process about that much pain. And so we want to keep all the projects really tiny, because we're not going to ask somebody who's never done a push-up before to do that push-up and then, oh, you failed the push-up. No, we can hurt people like that. We can send them back. They'll never do another push-up again. We're not doing that. We're going to have success the entire time. So maybe we're going to just do a push-up where we just bend the shoulders up and back. Maybe that's it. Maybe we're just going to get up in the kneeling position and stand there. It doesn't matter how weak somebody is. Sometimes I have people just think about doing the push-up. Right? Because we're touching all the muscles. The muscles are moving in a way that they're imagining they're about to do a push-up. We are actually strengthening it like that. So sometimes I'm having people do pain processing. Just think about how painful that would be, and let's use an intervention. Let's regulate your nervous system. We want to put the whole brain on it, and there's so many creative ways to do it to keep it small enough that it's successful. And if your brain can process that much distress, you're in just such a tough place that you got this much availability, like basically nothing, like can't slide anything in there. That's where you start, and that's good enough, and you'll win. You watch. You get your processor running right there where you're at, and you'll see this little space open up, and now you can process that much pain, and pretty soon you're growing, and you would be amazed. People who start with nothing, just monster processors. And it's just about doing it. It's about building the emotional, mental muscle for it, the wiring, getting your brain, hey brain, we're going to do this. Let's build some wiring for processing this fear. We've got this terror. Let's go. We're going to just do little bits at a time, right? But pretty soon it's going to be functional, right? We need to get that stuff moving at life speed. And a lot of us don't have life speed. We're decades behind schedule. Right? And that's okay now. The subconscious mind is thrilled about this. It's like, oh, let's go. This is going to be so much fun. It always thinks it's going to be fun. That's why it's always trying. That's why you have so many symptoms. It's because all those symptoms are your brain trying to process, to keep you up to speed, to get you a wonderful, beautiful life. It's just that process is blocked. And so that's why we're going to support it. And then we're going to help it build muscle and get up to date and get strong enough for now, for today. Okay. Flooding. Okay, this is what's so important about that skill. So if you start working small, pretty soon you will have a pretty big amount of pain processing you can do. And when I mean pain, I mean emotional pain, emotional distress, relational pain, relational distress. I'm not talking about physical pain. That is not in my somatic pain, the body's expression of emotion pain. Yes, that's what I'm talking about as well. Physical pain, it's not really my gig, and I'm terrible at that, so I have nothing for you there. So, but all this emotional, mental, somatic pain and distress, you get a pretty big window for this, and you can do quite a bit. However, every one of us, our brain is going to ask us to do at some time more processing than we actually can do. And this is flooding, right? Your processor is this big. The amount of emotion is this big. The amount of distress is this big. This happens in losses. This happens in flashbacks that are coming back that have never surfaced before. The brain will leave the toughest stuff for last a lot of times. And so if you've got tough stuff now, go slow, because I don't know what's back there. and we want to get ready for it. We want to be able to successfully process that. So don't go back there yet. You stay here in the present and you practice. But when those moments of flooding come, this is going to go in one of two routes. It's going to go in re-traumatizing route, or it's going to go in a massive healing opportunity route. And there are skills for that. There are skills for being in a flood in your emotional inner world and to create health and wellness out of it. And if you've got complex PTSD, this is a skill you need, because what's in the back that is going to be coming forward for a lifetime, right? We don't resolve every incident we've ever had. We don't dissolve all the things. We get enough process to be thriving. And then we're thriving and we're great and it's our wonderful comfort zone, and then our brain says, "Ooh, I want to grow." And then guess what it does? It goes and reaches from the back and pulls up something you've never done before and says, "I need this out of the way. I need this process in order to do the next level of growth, please." And you're like, right? This is a huge beast of a thing. But you have skills at this time because it's yours. You understand what's happening with your brain and what you need. And you're like, "Okay, let's go. Okay, we're going to need to do this a little at a time." And you can, but there's a flooding part of this that you really want to have protocols for and skills for you, that you've worked with your own emotions and flooding enough that you know how to, one, survive them. This is why people do not survive. This is why people go into addictions, suicide, and self-sabotage spirals. This is no joke. Flooding is not a joke. Flooding is for real, and we want to build skills for it. And some of those skills are calling our friends, calling our support people, going to the ER, getting stabilized, whatever we need to do wherever we're at in our journey, right? And just because you need to be stabilized today does not mean you will be in the future. But if that's accurately what you need, that's what you get it, right? And learn how to support yourself enough to get what you need. Okay, but the more we practice and our emotional processing on the little stuff, the more we're ready for the big moments, the big games, the disappointments, the breakups, the whatever our life is asking us to process and to grow through. So those are the three skills, and they really weave together very beautifully. And if you can't regulate your nervous system, it all stops. We don't want to be doing the other things. And so that skill one, let's go. The more you resource, the more that you will be able to tolerate flooding well. We're just wiring the health and wellness. It's like the tightrope. It's like when you're swinging in the circus. If you're one of the swinging people and you have the rope, the safety net under you, that resourcing builds that for you. It's so that you don't hit the floor, so that there's enough resources, support in the inner world, that if you fall, you'll just bounce a bit, right? You're not hitting the floor. You're not creating damage to yourself. It's not like that. So, so each one of these skills, we want to do them in order. We're not going to run to the flood. Do not do that. That's dangerous. Okay. And I want you to be skillful. I want you to be in the driver's seat of your healing. I want you to have the skills. I want you to have so many skills. That's what my program Inner World Transformation is about. Here, try this, do this exercise. Okay, do this exercise. As you're repairing your inner world, you're also building skills that you need for yourself. You're getting to know how you work, and you're healing yourself, and you're growing. That doesn't mean you can't get other healers involved and therapists, but I want you to have these skills because you are the one that's going to be with you the most. You're the one who is the most committed to you. You're the one who spends the most time with you. I want you highly, highly skillful in you. And so there's huge opportunities here, and all the skills come together to give you so much confidence. I have more confidence if I'm one of those little swinging people, if I have a safety net under me. Yes. If I don't, no, thank you. I don't have confidence. I can't risk it. No, right? But if we build these skills and we build that safety net under us, we can take the risks that we need to create the life of thriving, the life of our dreams, the connection, to take the risks to connect and try some new things, which is a lot needed when you spent your time in survival mode and now you want to thrive. It's new, right? So you got to try new things. Nervous systems don't like that, right? But you keep building these skills and your nervous system's like, ooh, it's going to be so much fun. Okay, wonderful connecting with you. I included the links to my free program, Interventions to Inner World Transformation, below this. You can just click on there and enroll and start trying out those interventions now today. If you want to go the distance with me and you want to learn interventions and do the whole program, I've also included my program, Inner World Transformation, below. And yeah, like my video, share it with your friends, subscribe, follow, all the fun things, like. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Take care. Thanks for joining me. Bye.